Welcome to The Craze in 10 or less. This is the show where I give it to you in 10 minutes or under, and if I don't, this has been a process. Anyway, what has been the biggest lessons I've learned since I've come back into comics trying to launch a Kickstarter? That's the topic of the day. I'm Seth the Crazy Man Vera. Stop acting up. Let's get it. So, why this topic? I'll tell you why. A whole lot of reasons. Because I learned a lot of lessons. Boy, have I learned some lessons. So for the sake of trying to get this into 10 minutes, and I'm sure I will not, I'm going to go straight to the point. So throughout this process, everybody knows that I left the game for 10 years, right? And I decided to come back. And 2019 was the comeback year. And there was big plans. And then 2020 hit, and it was and 2021 was just an extension of 2020 and blah, blah, blah. So here are the 3 lessons that I learned from this attempt at coming back into comics. Just because it was doesn't mean it will be. I'm going to say that again. Just because it was doesn't mean that it will be. And what does that mean? When I was doing comics, it's almost like, I'm going to say like the underground, because you had hip hop, you had mainstream hip hop, and you had underground hip hop, right? So we were like underground comic creators, and we had a buzz, and we had a fan base, and we had and people knew who we were. Convention promoters knew who we were, and we had a lot of followers. Writing on that, coming back from 10 years ago, thinking that me being obsolete for a decade, coming back is going to be a smoother transition than what I had anticipated. Well, those people moved on, right? People got married, had kids, went away, and I was no longer relevant because I was out of sight, out of mind. So I came back saying, well, I can bank on that, and it'll be an easier transition. And that wasn't the case. Just because back then we had a buzz doesn't mean coming back, the world has changed, the game has changed, the talent has changed. It's like MMA, right? UFC. You watched UFC back in the days when it was underground and it was taboo, and 2 fighters would go in, no gloves, no nothing, no rules, and you fight until one can't fight, and then the winner goes and sits it out, and then there's another 2 fighters that go in and they fight until they can't fight. Then they sit out, and then the other guy that won the last fight comes back in and fights, right? And then you got to fight 3 fights a night, right? That doesn't translate today. The world has changed. MMA has changed. There's rules, sanctions, all that stuff, whatever. But the talent has evolved. The game has evolved. The quality of the fighter has evolved. They're multifaceted. Where back then they were one-dimensional. An example of that is when Hoist Gracie came back, and he thought that there wasn't going to be a difference because he dominated UFC back in the days. He came back and he lost to Matt Hughes, right? The game has changed. So I don't know what I was thinking it would be easier. Did not recognize how difficult the climb would be. So that was one of the things. And you think you have no idea. So you think but you have no idea. So I thought I knew how to play the game because I was good at it back then. I mean, I was at the peak when it came to marketing, when it came to networking, when it came to creating the buzz, when it came to going out there and getting on the news and all these other things. I was breaking the rules and I thought I knew the game, and then I came back. And the rules changed and the game changed. And what I did then wasn't working today. And that takes a lot of soul searching when you're like, damn, I can't seem to figure this out. I can't seem to figure this out. You know, and back then you had forums. Today you have posts, right? Back then you had bigger communities. Today you have communities, but they're all creators doing the same thing you're doing, right? Back then you had forums where you can talk to the fans and platforms where the fans were, right? So learning how to navigate in this new space where there's so many different apps and so many different means of communicating, but it just gets lost. The messaging gets lost. And it's like, I'm doing exactly what everybody else is doing. I'm doing it. Sometimes I'm doing it a little faster. I post quite a lot, but it's not making the difference that I anticipated in my head. What I envisioned and what's actual, they're not clicking, right? So I'm like, damn, this is frustrating. Because we could be at a Big Apple Comic Con back then, and we would have lines, and people would come back, and you'd get feedback. The fans, I can't wait to see what Sin does next, or I can't wait to see, what happens to Russ. With the campaigns, you're not getting feedback, and there's not that demand. Why? And I think a lot of it has to do with people don't know who the hell you are, right? And then the other part was, it's a lot more difficult behind a computer. Doesn't matter how skilled you are, and I think that's the part that is a little discouraging, because COVID made my comeback a lot more complex. Because I knew the shows I wanted to do, because at the shows I can connect, I can build I can talk up to the audience that I'm targeting. I can, pitch the characters in the book and create an engagement. When you're online, it's you're almost a cyborg, and you're just a robotic. You're the brain behind the robot. So all I'm doing is inputting information, hitting send, hitting send, hitting send. And likes don't mean anything to me. It's the engagement that's more important. You can click like all you want. What I want is the conversation. What I'm looking for is the engagement. What I'm looking for is the questions. That's how you're making a dent. Having a post that has 400 likes is not as important to me as having a post that had 5 questions from 5 different people. That's the meat and potatoes. That means I piqued the curiosity, right? Liking, that looks cool. Like, that's interesting. Let me see if I ask this guy about this. Tell me more about this character. Where did this come from? When did you first create it? Where can I find it? That's what I'm looking for, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. So those 3 lessons for me, they're hard lessons to learn, because it really, it's very humbling. It's a sobering and humbling experience to know that I still have a lot to learn, right? And I'm trying to figure this game out. When I was working full time before I became a brokepreneur, I had the play money to be able to spend money on a press release or a marketing agent or whatever it is. Those luxuries are gone. So I have to be very mindful of the money that's going out. So how do you change the game to work to your advantage? Right. So here are the things that I've taken away from my experience. And I'm hoping that anybody out there, I know it sounds discouraging or whatever, but the soul searching is what's helping me figure out how to play in this new era. For me, it's about finding ways to connect with people, finding ways to get out there and network more. So now, I moved across country. I've been in New York my whole life. Right. I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens, moved to Jersey. Been in the East Coast my whole life, right? I've only been in Texas for 3 months now. So that means I need to go and start from scratch. localize myself, go out there and connect with people out here, and the comic shops, the bookstores, the libraries, all those things. That means I have to go back to my grassroots foundation, right? But in reality, it's the connecting with the people that's going to make the difference for me as a creator. I need to attend a lot more shows. This COVID's been very challenging and it's very discouraging because the rules change state to state. The rules change venue to venue. And because of that, there's a lot of customers that won't attend shows that normally would have because of all of the rule changing or the not trusting and all those other things. But I know for me that I'm better in the field when I'm working with people, when I'm talking to people, than I am behind a computer. Right? And I think the other thing for me is what I learned from this is that it doesn't matter what I post. It doesn't matter how many times I post because everybody's doing the same thing. I just got to keep creating from the heart, and I got to keep putting my best foot forward. And, when I look at something that I've worked on for 20 years and I can't get past 50 backers or 30 backers, it's very defeating mentally and emotionally because you worked really hard on something. And it's not for a lack of trying. I know that I just have to work a lot harder to build my name in the game. I know I have to work a lot harder to get people to take a chance on a book like Forbidden or something like Catch the Crazies. Because in hindsight, while we did always make our goal, we're not getting into as many hands as possible. And I've always said, I don't care if it was 100 people that only went digital and they did $5 each. For me, that's 100 people that read it. And so I just got to keep doing this for the reasons. When I created Forbidden, I created it from the heart, out of love. I worked on it for 20 years. It's my baby. Same thing with There's Nailing on My Toilet, Cosmic Wars. Same thing for George and Wonder Duck and Rush 5377. And at the end of the day, if I don't reach the point that I've wanted to, at least I put my best foot forward. And it was the best that I could produce at the time that I produced it. And my intentions were pure. So that was my lesson. If you're out there and you're at that crossroads and you're doubting yourself and you're trying to figure out whether or not it's worth it, if it makes you happy and you believe in what you do and you really believe in the characters you're creating, don't stop creating. Because you're really creating for you. And that's all that matters. That's the topic of the day. That's the Crazy 10 or Less. Thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like this episode. Subscribe. Help us get monetized. Join us. George will be here in Texas on Wednesday. I'm going to pick him up at the airport because he had a layover. So he's going to be here. We're going to go live from the studio. I can't tell you what time because you don't know if he has delays or whatever it is. But when we get here, we're going to go live to join us. And join us Tuesday night. We got 5 names, 5 new backers that are going to go into the raffle. If you haven't backed Forbidden yet, please do so. This is my baby. I worked on it for a long time. Give it a shot. $5. That's all it is. Get a digital copy. Give it a shot. What do you got to lose? But if you want to enter the raffle, it's $15 minimum. So you can get all 3 issues for $15 digitally. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm Sam the Crazy Man Rivera. This is an episode of The Crazy 10 or Less. You have a great day. Don't stop creating. Keep it from the heart. Peace.